What a treat to have two of the biggest names in historical fiction in our studio, and they've been working together on one book. It's this one, The Phoenix Crown. Welcome to Kate Quinn and Janie Chang. Thanks so much. Like, when your publisher told me, sent an email, I was like, oh, I can't believe this, because I'd been looking forward to this book, and then the fact that you would both be here. So thank you for that. How did you two get together to work on a book?
We were friends already from a really wonderful three-city tour of Vancouver, Victoria, Whistler, but the logistics for transportation went all wrong, and we could have ended up scratching each other's eyes out, but we didn't.
In fact, we ended up such good friends that, a few years later, when I ended up just thinking about, I wonder if, this San Francisco earthquake book idea, I wonder if Janie would write this with me. And I thought, if we could survive that book tour where everything went wrong and still be friends by the end of it, the odds that we could write a book together and still be friends by the end seemed pretty good.
Okay, so what books were you promoting at the time? So you were doing yours...
Dragon Springs Road.
And for me, it was the Alice Network.
Okay.
And
Jennifer Robson was...
Yeah, great Canadian author. Was she doing The Gown at that point?
I think it was Goodnight from London.
Oh, okay, so before The Gown.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so then you had an idea, because your books always stem from some idea of something. So it's an historic event, in this case, the earthquake in San Fran in 1906.
Yes, I always thought it would be a great place to set a novel. It's one of the biggest natural disasters in United States history, if not the biggest. And what a place to set a story of two very different women who are thrown together, who would ordinarily never even become friends, but who do become friends because of this crisis. And I thought that, Chinatown should be a huge part of this, because it is such a large and vibrant part of San Francisco's history. And yet it seemed that so many of the books and even nonfiction I read about it seemed to treat it somewhat peripherally.
Right.
So I called Janie up, and I'm crossing my fingers saying, would you find this interesting? Does this sound like something you could spend a couple years on with me?
And it did take that long.
Well, it didn't take that long, because we signed a contract for a very, very tight deadline. But
that'll do it.
It seemed like a good idea
at the time. But the thing was, I looked into it, and it was just such an interesting time in history, with the Chinese Exclusion Act going on in the United States. The fact that I could craft a heroine who would somehow manage to trying to run away from an arranged marriage, who had one foot in the Chinese culture and community, but who was also born and raised in the U.S. So she could also see that there was more agency available to other women that was not available to her. So she's striving.
So did you each write two separate characters, and then like, how did you kind of bring them together? How did that all happen?
We have one word for that, and that word is spreadsheets.
Google Share, probably,
and Google Drive.
Absolutely.
We dedicated this book to our husbands, who were wonderful at keeping homes afloat and livable while we were making this very tight deadline. But we honestly also could have dedicated it to
Google
Excel. But we did decide. Janie wrote her heroine, I wrote mine, and we alternated chapters, and that way we could have two voices that were very distinct, which was okay, because the two women are very distinct, and they should sound different. And that way, we mapped it out on that spreadsheet, every single chapter, what happens in it, how much time passes, and that meant that we could each write independently. If the other one got a little behind or a little ahead, it didn't matter. We knew what would happen. But honestly, we didn't get behind or ahead. It's like we kept up with each other very well.
Well, there was the month that I was moving house, and so I think I fell behind by one chapter. But because we had like every chapter mapped out on a row of a spreadsheet, it was easier for us to dovetail the action.
Yes.
We always knew what action began and ended each chapter.
And yet it reads seamlessly, because I kept going back and I'm like, I can't tell if they're each writing one separately, or because or is that editing? Like, you've got a great editor that, okay, you need to do this to your voice a little.
We didn't really worry too much about melding our voices, again, because we were writing two very distinct women. Yeah. But there was a lot of editing, and we just approached that with a lot of respect and a lot of discussion, because we are already, not only being friends, we're huge fans of each other's work.
Yes.
And, whenever I was, editing something for Janie, it wasn't like I was, red penning all of her lines out without asking her. It was, I'm not sure about this. What if we did this instead? Let's talk about it. And so there's a lot of discussion and collaboration, but honestly, that's fun.
Okay, you're going to have lots of fans meeting you out on tour right now. So I understand you have public library tours in London today,
Burlington,
Hamilton tonight, Burlington tomorrow. You're all over the place. So, so it's so kind of you to come in and spend some time on our couch and give the Phoenix Crown a read. It is such a great adventure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, both sides.